All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Somers Town Board Work Session starting here at 7:05, Thursday, March 6th, 2025. Bill, can you just tell us where you're at, please?
Where are you, Bill?
Yep, sure can. I'm at the Hard Rock Hotel in Orlando, Florida, in a public lobby.
Thank you.
How's the weather? Torture us. How's the weather?
It's really not as good as we'd hoped. We barely
good.
hit 69, 70 degrees today, so
Oh,
you're not
tough
that far
life.
behind.
All right.
All right, so we're going to open up here with public comment. I'll make the motion to open up public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, anybody here for public comment? Roland?
Good evening, Town Supervisor Scarano and Town Board members. I'm here tonight to thank each of you for stepping up to the plate and helping us on Lounsbury Drive and Cornelius and all of the surrounding neighborhoods in the defeat of the 116 megawatt BESS unit on Miller Road that backs up, borders Arrow Street and backs up to Valley Road. You listened to all of the concerns that we, the people, and the residents from Somers and nearby Mahopac neighborhoods had. You understood the dangers of the BESS, and most recently saw the destruction and sickness caused by the Moss Cove, California BESS explosions and fire that spread contaminants for up to 15 miles from its epicenter. This battery technology is in its infancy and put forth by the lunatic fringe trying to correct the problem that they themselves created. Rob, you crafted a letter to all parties opposing this monstrous industrial complex, expressing your strong opposition, as well as all the board members signing on to that very letter. And many of our politicians in the area also signed on to it, supporting the letter of protest and concern. You will never know the elation, the joy, the happiness that we all felt that day 2 weeks ago when Matt called my neighbor Stephanie to let us all know that this project and the permit was pulled. It was not going to go forward. That also had much to do with our neighbors in Carmel putting the 6-month moratorium in place. That helped us a lot. Last week, was the 1-year anniversary of us finding out all about this complex. Much was done in 1 year. Organizing our resistance. When we attended these meetings to express our concerns, you listened. You hired an attorney to help argue this in the event we had to go to an Article 78. You crafted new laws to outlaw these units from ever being built in Somers. You collaborated with neighboring town of Carmel. That all added up to help us get out of the position we were in. Others that came out to support us at every effort we can go. Matt Slater's in the house, our assemblyman. You talk about attention to the detail. Well, when this whole thing was going on, he was like a bulldog jumping on a chicken leg. This man was all over everything. He was going after them up in Albany every which way but Sunday. So, Matt, thank you so much.
Loves him chicken leg.
You did. Congressman Mike Lawler, Senate candidate Gina Arena. She was always there with us in the trenches and attending our rallies and signing on, carrying our signs on the Route 6 demonstrations and rallies we had on in front of the library and the diner. And New York State Minority Leader Rob Ort. All very, very open to anything we had to say, came out, visited us, visited the site, understood the complexities and the proximity of this proposed industrial complex with the relationship it had to our homes, which were 200 feet away. To all of you, the Somers Town Board, we the people as we went through this, as well as the town of Carmel in defeating this battery energy storage system. All you folks up there need to be commended for your efforts in bringing this nightmare to an end. In closing, I'd like to reiterate, Supervisor Rob Scarano, Town Board members Tom Garrity, Anthony Sirico,
Yep.
Richard Clinchy and Bill Faulkner. Job well done, gentlemen. Yes, really helped us a lot. I thank you all so much.
Roland, I do want to say one thing before you say that, and I appreciate it. Keep in mind, I had to recuse myself because of my
Understood.
position,
Yeah,
but
yeah, you were nice. I understand.
Okay.
The ethics. And before I get off the dais, I want to change subjects very quickly because it is open forum. I'm actively involved with trying to bring back the American Legion. Richard Post 1505, Richard Somers Post 1505 here in town. I've already been a few places. We will not have this thing together, to the best of my knowledge, by Memorial Day, but possibly by Veterans Day, we'll have it together. Working actively with 3 or 4 other gents in town over here and going around trying to dig up names. I hope to have a table set up, and I'll talk to you more about this offline, out here for Memorial Day to get signatures, so on and so forth.
good, Roland.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If I could show you them up.
Yeah, I'll come on up. Hi, guys. I think Roland pretty much said it very well, but I mean,
Name and name.
oh, sorry. Michelle Stewart, 14 Cornelius Lane, Baldwin Place, New York. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you to each and every one of Rob. You put this at the top of your to-do list when I know you have so many things to do. And I think I speak for everybody in this room and for the people in this town who really didn't even know what was going on. You protected them. And, you know, this has just been such a nightmare. And we're just so grateful for everything that you guys did. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Real quick, Paul Harold, 7 Cornelius Lane. Just to continue on top of what Dave said, plus we felt as though we've done well with your help, and we're going to hopefully continue to keep going after this with the county of Westchester and the county of Putnam. So you may get a knock on the door one of these days, say, you know, what are you doing?
Doors open.
All right, so still online.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you. Guy Baker, 7 Lounsbury. Great job. Just appreciate everything you did. But these guys are the ones that did everything. Right here. They need our applause. Farmel on Union Valley Road. Unbelievable job they did too. So without everybody, the Facebook page never could have done it alone. It just shows that the pushback for an $80 billion company, not $80 million company, and they pulled out and pulled their permit. So thank you again for these people.
You know, I know you usually don't say much during public comment for you people, for the residents to speak, but thank you so much for the kind words to everybody here on the board. And Guy, you were 100% correct. Without the leadership and the commitment from everybody on Lounsbury and in the surrounding areas, job well done. Excellent job. I mean, the tenacity, the keep going at it, making people answer your questions, holding them accountable, making sure that they were following up on everything. Job well done. I mean, this is what communities do to rally around it, and how you spread the word not only to the residents in Somers, but into Mayapack and into Carmel, and then now around the United States, where people are actually calling you on the phone and asking you, how do we stop certain things? I mean, that just tells you what things can be accomplished in a small town when you have a group of people fighting for a cause that they believe in. So again, really nice job, and thank you again for all the nice words for everybody up here.
But
Thank
it,
Thank you.
I'm gonna add to that. Again, I was sort of on the outside looking in just due to my particular circumstances. And Rob's been on the board now for, is it 2 years, Rob?
3.5.
Jeez Louise.
I know.
But and the passion which he attacks things as somebody who's been on the board for going on 20 years is incredibly refreshing. He doesn't drop the ball on anything. He listens to, he's just like Matt. He, he takes it and they run with it. And, I've known Matt for many, said, Assemblyman Slater said he's taller. So, we'll see, but, no, but it's
no,
just, it's, this is one issue that we've seen, and this is something that I know a lot of people got together on and worked on. But there are so many other things that Rob's working on that people don't see right now. They'll see the fruits of it down the road. But he takes everything so seriously, puts everything into, as do the rest of the town board. But we always say we're part-timers. We have other jobs that we do. This is Rob's full-time job, and I've said it before. I've said it when I got sworn in last year again. He's doing a great job, and I'm so happy because people like that are sitting here very rarely get good job. They often get, what the heck are you doing? And again, I keep myself out of this right now because I don't get involved in those things. But they have done a great job, as has Matt, and the fact that people are here to say that really in my 20 years of doing this is just nice to see. But keep Rob keep going.
Okay. Anybody else? Public comment? If not, I'll make a motion to close out public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Do you guys, I know you wanted to take a photo. You guys want to take a quick photo? You guys want to come down?
Yeah. Want to take the photo?
No, I'm good.
No, do you
You want me to take it? Yeah, I'll take it.
You wanna
I can
on-
take it. I can't be
take
in
it
it.
on our behalf?
Great job.
Yeah. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Hold on, one more. Oh.
Who would have thought they could have got anything done?
Thank you.
Are you good? You have to listen to that.
Yeah.
I know. My daughter just got home. It's on my watch. My daughter just arrived home. All right. All righty. Okay. Great. Let's go on to the rest of the agenda here for this evening. Instead of our Somers town update, we have Assemblyman Matt Slater here
Oh, sorry.
to give us an update, Matt.
There you go.
Little update from Albany. Well, good evening, everybody. Assemblyman Matt Slater, proud to be the representative of the Fighting 94th Assembly District. Like the supervisor, into my 3rd year now, which is pretty great.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to be able to come around to the town boards. This is my 4th one this year. Just to give you a quick update about what's going on we call it Planet Albany. It's similar to, I actually thought Bill was there for a second, Councilman Faulkner.
Flying in right now.
But in Planet Albany, yeah, it's always something. It's a crazy, contentious at times atmosphere, but we do get a lot of great things done. And so right now, I just wanted to provide just a couple of updates and really just continue to build off of the success that we had in our first term representing the town of Somers. And it's been a great honor. Just as a reminder, in the first term, we delivered more than $30 million back here to our district. We passed the seventh most legislation of any freshman, Republican or Democrat, in the Assembly, and we successfully closed out more than 1,000 constituent cases thanks to my great staff. And so we've got a great foundation underneath us, and we're looking to build and push forward on a lot of new initiatives, and I'm very excited about that. We did get some new committee assignments this year. I am the ranking member on the Elections Committee. I'm also serving on both the Health and Environmental Conservation Committee, as well as Labor and Transportation. And if I start to shake, it's because I came in on 202, and I think I hit every one of those bumps, which we'll talk about in a second.
Please.
Secondarily, and I'm also very proud to share that my colleagues in the Republican conference actually elected me as chairman of the Policy Committee this year.
I heard.
And so, I get to really dive in deep on a lot of the issues that we think are really pressing, and put together a great platform with members from all across New York State, and it's really exciting. Right now I'm going to talk budget first. Is that okay with the board? Right now we're in the throes of the budget. I'm sorry.
Your show.
All right. Right now we're in the throes of the budget. The governor proposed her budget in January. It is a $252 billion budget. $252 billion. It's actually $15 billion more than last year's budget. So these numbers are huge, absolutely huge. For those wondering, we get about $90 billion from the federal government here in New York State. And the two largest expenditures that we deal with from a budgetary standpoint, number one is healthcare, is health, mostly obviously Medicaid. Number two, public education. Those are the two biggest pots of money that we have to manage during this process. We're talking about education, and I know during my time as a town official, as a town supervisor, education and town government completely separate, and I recognize that. But I do think it's important to share. Last year the governor talked about eliminating the hold harmless clause, which would have impacted negatively about 50% of the public schools in New York. This year we're going in the complete opposite direction. Thankfully, that never happened, by the way. We fought back and successfully stopped that. This year, the governor's proposing a 2% minimum increase in foundation aid for every public school district in New York State, which I think is really important and really good for property taxpayers, obviously, who bear a huge burden when it comes to funding our public schools. So we are in a very good position from a starting standpoint for funding public education here this time around. From a local government standpoint, Supervisor, I know what it's like to put a municipal budget together. It's tough. And I do think that we need more help from Albany to tackle a lot of the challenges that our local municipalities are facing. Unfortunately, the governor's budget doesn't do enough. She keeps her AIM funding, which is the aid and incentives for municipalities. You get a chunk of money every year from Albany. It once again remains flat from last year and frankly years past. They have not increased it in quite some time. And so that is a total of $765.2 million in her budget. We did talk about, I touched upon transportation. I'm on the transportation committee because I request it every time, knowing that the state roads are the main arteries to all of my communities. And it is atrocious where we are. And the supervisor and I have had more conversations than we can remember about the state of the roads here in Region 8, the Hudson Valley. And the facts speak for themselves. According to the last conditions report released by DOT, we do have statistically the worst rated roads and bridges, state roads and state bridges in the entire state of New York. That is a statistical fact, and it's wrong and unacceptable. So when we had our budget hearing this year, I pressed very, very hard the commissioner of DOT to get more investments here in the Hudson Valley, here specifically in Somers. And the supervisor and I have we've advocated, we've written letters. Trust me, they know every time I drive on 202 because I make sure to email or call DOT to let them know the conditions of that road. But the good news is this, believe it or not. There is good news. The governor's budget, and I commend her for this, increases, it's actually one of its largest, the budget's largest increases in allocation, increases the DOT Core Capital Plan funding upwards of $800 million. That is a huge number, and it's desperately needed. The trick is making sure that we benefit from those dollars. And that was, I asked directly the commissioner of DOT during our budget hearing. So if you're asking me to approve $800 million, Region 8 is going to benefit. That was the question. I got a non-answer on the question because I don't think that she really can give a straight answer on that. But 800 million is the number that the governor's proposed. I think it's needed. Last year, we tried getting 400 million into core capital, and that ultimately fell at the wayside, which I was very disappointed in. And now that number's doubled. When you look at the rate of inflation, when you look at construction costs, when you look at all the needs, we believe this is actually the right number. And not only do we believe that, but so does the industry itself, Construction Industry Council, and many other partners who we've been working with to advocate for better investments in our roads. From a CHIPS standpoint, again, going back to your municipal budgets, CHIPS is what the state allocates to our municipalities to pave our local roads. And I want to thank Highway Superintendent Nick DeVito for hosting a wonderful advocacy event here at the Somers Highway Garage last week. And then he also joined me in Albany just yesterday as we advocated in the Capitol on this important issue. The governor's proposal left CHIPS flat at the previous year's allocation of $598 million. We are demanding $250 million more to be given in CHIPS funding because, again, of the cost of construction and knowing the needs that we have here in New York State. You know, there's billions of dollars from federal money that's coming into New York State, but 90% of local roads don't qualify for them. And so it either goes to the state or to the local municipalities or the counties to invest the needed dollars to make sure that we don't have crumbling infrastructure. And so this is an important quality of life issue, important safety issue, and something I think Somers should be very proud to have great leaders like your highway superintendent and your town supervisor fighting for, along with myself and many others. So we'll see what happens in the final budget, which is due at midnight, March 31st. We haven't hit that deadline in a few years now, but we are always optimistic in Planet Albany. In addition to that, I also like to talk about libraries. I was the ranking member of the Library and Education Technology Committee during my first term, and I think we all know the important role that libraries play in our communities. It's not just a place for books. It's really is a community center that helps in so many ways, whether it's, yes, literacy, but also, you know, we've seen job trainings, we've seen passport centers be formed in some of our libraries, and they really do play an essential role. Library operating aid in New York State increased slightly in the governor's budget, which is good. Obviously, we're not going backwards. I think more is needed, without a doubt. The thing that I disagree with the governor wholeheartedly on is her approach on construction aid. I can tell you from hearing the testimony at our committee meetings and our committee hearings that the number for libraries across New York State to meet today's need, and you know, we know that libraries like the one in Yorktown dates back to the Civil War. There's a construction need to modernize and meet the need of the day. That number is about $1 billion. $1 billion. And this year, the governor is proposing to cut that fund by $10 million and offering only 34. So we're going backwards. And I don't think that's good enough. And I don't think that it should be good enough for the folks here in Somers either, because you do have a wonderful library that I'm going to be visiting in a few weeks. So just to know that going into the final rounds here of the budget, I'm going to stop there and see if you have any questions about the things we talked about so far.
Yeah, Matt, I was just wondering, so what's the total amount that the state has allocated for road construction? You said there's an extra 800 million, just doing a quick calculation. That's about 2,400 miles of state road, judging at about 300 and something thousand.
I don't have that number handy, to be honest with you.
There's 2,400 miles isn't a whole lot, so I assume that there's
When you're talking about
That's
DOT core capital, the DOT core capital number is an increase of funding of $800 million
Right.
from the previous year. Now that goes to paving, yes, but it also goes to, and this is one of my gripes, it goes to their signature projects. And so when you talk to Region 8, it looks like Region 8 is getting a boatload of money to deal with roads. But a lot of those dollars are being encumbered on their capital projects. And the issue I have with it is they're encumbering the dollars up front, but they're not doing anything on the project for 5 years. Meanwhile, you can't get down 202 here in the town of Somers without a concussion. So why aren't we using those dollars here paving our roads while they're going through their procurement process
Right.
of the capital project. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's one of my gripes that I have and I continue to raise. But what you're seeing from the governor's standpoint is while you see things like CHIPS that are flat, the DOT core capital is seeing a significant increase of the nearly $1 billion, which is needed because there are significant infrastructure and transportation related projects for DOT that do cost significant dollars. My concern, once again, though, is let's not tie those up in those signature projects. One of them is up in Syracuse right now. It's a massive project up on I-81. Or if you go over to Orange County, the Route 17 expansion, those are all DOT-funded projects, and they're massive when you look at the dollar amount that's going to be spent. The issue I have, though, is they're nowhere near close to actually starting those projects, and yet we're tying up really just an insane amount of money to fund them, even though the projects aren't ready for
So we're not going
starting.
to see or you don't believe, you're going to see the impact on these roads. And I've driven upstate and it always strikes me. I would figure those roads would be worse.
Yeah.
Now, maybe there's region because we freeze, unfreeze, and maybe they don't. But I always say, these roads are better. And somehow.
It's the riddle that no one can seem to answer in Planet Albany, and it's not fair when you look at the fact that we have the most lane miles of state road in the state. We have the most state bridges, right? So you would think then we would be getting the most dollars as a region. Also, when you factor in the high ridership, I think we're number 2 or 3 in the state, but we're not. We're not getting the most dollars. And statistically, their conditions report, and the last one that was released, shows that we have the worst rated conditions. It doesn't make any sense, and it's not right. And so this is a bipartisan issue. I want to assure you that. I was with my colleagues from the Assembly delegation and the Senate delegation of the Hudson Valley.
Talk to people.
You know, yep, Senator Harcum supports this. Assemblyman Ekus over on the west side of the river supports it. It's a Region 8 issue because, again, we're being shortchanged in a big way, and it's impacting the quality of life and safety of our
I mean, I'm sure every region says we don't get enough. I mean, that's the nature of things, right?
Yeah, but they can't
Everybody
deny it.
more,
Of course
but-
they do, but they don't have the
Can you?
designation of being statistically rated as the worst rated roads and bridges in the
And
United States.
it's not only this year.
No, it's consistent.
That's my point.
Absolutely. So that's why we're trying again to make sure that we're applying the necessary pressure to DOT. You have to get dollars in first, approved in the budget, and then we really go to the mattresses to make sure that the Hudson Valley is getting its fair share. That is the goal. So it's a good step forward. At least we're not starting back.
Anybody in this room against that?
I don't think so. If everyone came into town the same way that I do, I mean, holy smokes.
Yeah.
So any other questions on what we've touched upon so far? Because there's just a few other budget items that I just wanted to hit, and then I wanted to get into some of the other quality of life issues that I know we're facing here in Somers. No? Okay. Just quickly on childcare, that's a big issue as well that I want to just make sure we take a minute to acknowledge. The governor did put forward a pretty comprehensive childcare proposal, which I thought was really good. And I think it's really good because she included some of my legislation in it. So proof that we do work together to actually get things done in Albany. My legislation actually creates a childcare substitute pool because when you talk to our childcare providers, it's not like public schools. And I know that Councilman Sirico knows this. It's not like when you're a public school teacher and you can't make it into school and you can call and there's a substitute that they can call in for you. You don't get that during as a part of your childcare operations. And it's really causing a negative impact, not just on the quality of service, but also the availability. And so as a parent with 2 young kids, I just got through the childcare stage, which I'm very happy about, quite frankly, because of the high cost. But that's one of the things that you have to deal with, right? If you get that phone call at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning that your childcare provider is sick and they can't come in, they can't call a substitute because of the way that New York State licensed child care service providers. And so I was very happy to see this. I think it's a common sense item included in the governor's budget. And I think that it's an important step, for dealing with the child care crisis that we're seeing in New York State. Look, fact of the matter is child care is costing more in New York State than an in-state college tuition. It's mind-blowing if you think about that. And that's why I say, listen, I love my kids are amazing and I love having small children, but the fact that I'm not paying those high childcare bills, I understand the struggles that people go through. And so tackling childcare head on, I think, is important. There's some increases in in tax credits related to childcare as well. and increases in UPK, which I think is also a really great program for us to be supporting as a state. Additionally, I did want to talk quickly about MTA because as we know, there's this back and forth regarding congestion pricing. Congestion pricing, for those who don't know, is expected to generate $15 billion for the capital program for the MTA. The MTA, they were requiring, or they're asking for $68.4 billion for their capital plan. And so when you do the math, they were still short $33 billion before congestion pricing hit its current road bump. The thing that I think is absurd, and this past week, we started really pushing the envelope when it came to auditing the MTA. The MTA's budget is larger than 20 states. 20 states. And when you think about how much we spend in the quality of service, there's clearly a problem. And so we believe that a forensic audit is desperately needed. When you look at the expenses and you look at how much they spend, when you look at the fact that they're leaving nearly $1 billion a year on the table in revenue due to fare evasions, people who are jumping the turnstiles, people who are not paying to utilize the MTA buses, and yet Hudson Valley taxpayers, frankly, I think are being targeted, not just through congestion pricing, but also through the continued MTA payroll tax, which I would be very cautious about when we go back to Albany next week, because I fully expect an increase proposal for the MTA payroll tax to make up some of the shortfall. So it's a big issue that we have to deal with in Albany. And listen, I just want to also be clear. I recognize the importance of the MTA from an economic standpoint. There's no question. But I don't think that if I'm willing to, acknowledge that, there's got to be equal acknowledgement that they can be doing a much better job running this authority. And to have the chairman of the MTA tell us point blank during the budget hearing, it doesn't matter how much money you give us, we're always going to be back, I think is a problem. And that's a non-starting position, I think, for anyone who, as an executive or someone who has to create budgets, to take. And so I took great exception to Chairman Lieber's comments when I was at the hearing last month. And so any questions on either of those topics before I just touch upon a few more items? No, we're good to go. Great. I'm not trying to put anyone on the spot, but I did want to just touch about NYSEG real quick and the supply cost issues that we're seeing. It's been something that I've dove into head first. I understand and recognize, and I've heard from many constituents here in the town of Somers on the just really painful bills people are opening from the utility costs. And I think it's important that people understand the difference between a delivery rate, which is approved by the Public Service Commission, and a supply rate, which is the cost to produce your electricity. That supply rate is not regulated by state, nor is it approved by the Public Service Commission, whereas your delivery rate is, and it's detailed on your bill. And so the delivery rate is the rate case that we see approximately every 3 years from utilities. Con Ed has proposed, I know there's no Con Ed customers here, but Con Ed is beginning their next rate case before the Public Service Commission, which is the entity that approves or disapproves these types of matters for New York State. And NYSEG will be beginning their next rate case next year. And so the rate that the state approved for your delivery charge has not changed, period. It is the same delivery rate. The cost to produce your electricity because of the cold winter that we've had, 15% colder than the year before, has created a supply and demand issue when it comes to natural gas specifically, and the cost to produce electricity. So when people think about what is the impact of closing Indian Point, you're feeling it now. This is where you're feeling it. Because if you talk to the New York Independent Systems Operator, we do not have enough electricity on the grid to meet today's demand. Period. And so we are doing our best to work with NYSEG. I want to thank them because they've been very open and honest in their dialogue with my office. They've been very responsive to people who've contacted us, and we've shared and we've passed them along to NYSEG for their customer service representatives to get in touch with. And there's other pieces that we've found that we believe we can put into place. But if you have a day-night meter, you are being subjected to a higher supply charge than a standard meter. And I believe the number is more than 21,000 day-night meters in my district.
Yes.
So there's a lot of customers right now who are dealing with a lot of pain. And I recognize it. I'm a NYSEG customer myself, so don't get me wrong. I recognize it, and we're doing our best to rectify it. Other than being able to basically build power plants right now, there's no quick fix to the problem. You'll see your bills really rectify themselves once the winter months are behind us and it starts to warm up. It's pretty much cyclical. We've seen this really when demand goes up. It's, like I said, a supply and demand issue. But if you do have issues and questions specifically, NYSEG is coming with customer representatives. They're hosting 2 customer service pop-up sessions where you can bring your bill. You can meet in person with a customer representative from NYSEG. March 12th in the town of Yorktown at Town Hall. They'll be there from 1 to 3 and 5 to 7. And then March 13th in Carmel, same times, 1 to 3, 5 to 7. But Somers residents are more than welcome to come if you have any questions regarding your bill.
Matt, let me just say something.
Yes.
That's not going to be a presentation.
It's not a town. Yeah,
Not a
we've got
presentation where you're going to be
Not correct.
up in front of the podium and start
No, this is a
the
public.
grievances at NYSEG. This is just a one-on-one.
Yeah.
Come in with your bill, and a representative from NYSEG will walk you through the bill and how it's laid out for you. But it's not going to be a presentation where you're going to be up in the podium and
No.
speak your mind. It's
Yeah.
going to be an information piece only and walk you through your bill.
And
Correct.
Carmel, you didn't mention the Carmel one's at the Carmel Town.
Excuse me, that's right. Thank you so much. Carmel Town Hall, March 13th, Yorktown Town Hall, March 12th. I will say that people have been switching from their day-night meters to the standard meters. Standard meters provide a little more stability when it comes to supply cost increases like we're seeing right now. So that's up to, you to make that individual decision, but you would be able to have that opportunity to meet with those representatives and make those changes and get any answers that you have on your bill coming up.
So Matt, the trend is unequivocally up. I mean,
Mhm.
a few years back, we were paying 5 cents per kilowatt hour for supply. Now it's up over 12 cents per kilowatt hour.
Mhm.
But this is because of a lot of policy issues, right?
100%.
On one end, you have the supply being restricted, right? You made the point about Indian Point, but the other side is that we have electrification mandate.
Yep.
The school bus mandates.
Yep.
The highway department, they want to electrify vehicles,
You want to electric
school buses,
school buses and your highway.
and highway.
Yes.
It's not going to happen.
No, I agree with you completely.
But there's a mandate to get this done over the next few years.
Yeah.
It's just an impossibility.
100%.
Going to be done on the back of affordability.
I can tell you that I sat in on a public hearing regarding EV car infrastructure, and it, of course, morphed into this exact discussion. I think that there is general acknowledgement from Planet Albany, as I like to keep calling it, that the goals and everything that was set in 2019 during the CLCPA are not going to be met. I think there's general acknowledgement that the EV school bus mandate is unattainable, and there's a lot more in that discussion that people didn't really have because they hadn't peeled back the onion to get into the details about it. Whether it's about charging infrastructure, whether it's about the impact on the local roads, whether it's about the fact that guardrails that are put up on our roads can't even really withstand an EV bus because they're not meant to stop that much weight from going through the guardrails. So there's a whole line of discussion that's being had. I think that people are coming to the realization, whether it's stubbornly or not, that the direction that we're going in, you're not going to get there at the timeline that people had originally pushed us to. And so we're hopeful that we're going to see some, I think, easing in that regard. But we have to continue to make sure that we provide the data, provide the advocacy also, because those conversations, it gets frustrating when the stakeholders aren't allowed at the table. And then they get put at the table after it's passed, and then you have a problem. And that's what we're seeing here.
This is typically the way they work, right? There are best mandates as well, as part of this, situation. So, we really have to push back.
Well, you mentioned about the need for demand. It's not going to decrease as you go forward. Now, I am one who says you have to cut carbon emission, but
Yeah, of course.
when you don't have, like you say, the guardrails, that's an excellent point. those new heavier, because they are heavier, they have a greater impact on the roads. And so you have to consider all things. But the point I want to make is that AI, artificial intelligence, the big part of the future.
Yeah.
And that sucks up a tremendous amount
Oh, yeah.
of energy. Microsoft has begun looking to create their own atomic nuclear facility to generate electricity
Yes.
just for their own AI needs.
Mhm.
So while whether you want to or not, AI will be some part of the future, whether it's a bright future,
Yeah.
great, or like,
You know, it's interesting. I met with the
but
governor.
more supply, and then
Well-
and it's a national problem
Yes.
that it's not going to be dealt in your district, in this state. It is a national problem that I do believe Washington has to pay attention to. Otherwise, where's the energy coming from?
Yeah, you made a lot of great points there that I agree with. I actually met with the AI Enterprise director in Albany this week. That's a huge project that's happening up in Buffalo. And it was actually really interesting to hear specifically on the supply issue. They're tapping into Niagara Falls to use hydropower to power their entire center, which was really interesting. And so, they're really being forward thinking about that. But yes, I mean, the problem is, as we're seeing, you can't mandate electrification when we don't have enough electricity to meet today's need. It doesn't add up. It's simple math. And so the good news on that front also, the governor did talk about small scale nuclear power plants in upstate New York, specifically up by some of our military establishments as a test pilot, which would, I think, be very good for us to look at. Small scale nuclear is something that's been coming online a lot in Europe as well, especially in France. And so I do think there's a lot of promise there, but you got to solve the supply issue and the baseload issue before you start mandating electrification when we don't even have enough juice for what we need today. And so that's the conversation. I think, you talk about putting the cart before the horse. I think the numbers are proving it. It doesn't mean in my mind that we need to, just end everything, but we have to be real over what do we need to accomplish it. And so I think we have to go back to the fact that baseload power needs to be generated in a more efficient manner. And you have to really create more power plants in order to do that, because you're not going to get that from just renewables. So, and I would just also add just a couple of legislative items. Let's see here. I think it was, I wrote it down. So we did do some legislation regarding battery energy storage systems. I want to thank the supervisor for joining some letters that the town supervisor, every town supervisor in my district signed on to regarding the need for safety parameters, setbacks, basic common sense things that municipalities have to go through as part of their site plan approval process. We do have legislation that would require this. I believe it is A4804 is the legislation that we've introduced in the Assembly. Senator Matera, who's the ranking member on the Energy Committee, has introduced it in the Senate as well. I actually received just yesterday a letter from the chairman of the Public Service Commission because I sent some follow-up questions to his testimony, specifically on battery energy storage systems. And it's clear that there is really no required setbacks when it comes to these type of facilities. And as we've seen right here in Somers, you got to make sure that you're protecting the residents in residential areas. And so we do have legislation that speaks to that. It speaks to greater scrutiny for these projects, specifically in the watershed, which I think is just hypocritical of New York State when we're dealing with an MS4 mandate that's costing municipalities an unseen amount of money and really, regulatory hurdles when it comes to DEP. Yet there's no concern about battery energy storage systems being put right into the same watershed. It's completely contradictory to what we've seen for how many years now as municipal leaders. And so it speaks to that. And then just a few other items. I did introduce the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act on the state level, which would take the definition of anti-Semitism. I did this actually as a town supervisor in Yorktown as well. We adopted it. So it would define anti-Semitism in accordance with the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, which I think is a great thing for us to be doing on the state level with the rise of anti-Semitism that we're seeing across New York State. And so, there are, and Councilman Clinchie asked me this my first time I was here. Do you find common ground with your colleagues on the other side of the aisle? And I can still tell you definitively yes. And, I look for ways to partner with people every single day. The supervisor and I are working on a piece of legislation related to housing for domestic violence victims that I already have a large amount of support for from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. And so I think that we're going to see a lot of traction and movement on that as well. And you know, that's the great part about collaborating with people and having great partners on multiple levels of government and in a great community. So I really want to thank you all. I want to thank our friends from Lonesbury Drive for being great leaders as well. They were fantastic to work with and continue to make sure that we're keeping a close eye on really important issues facing our community. But if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, you just raised that. And I was just wondering, I was down in New York City last week or the week before with the Association of Towns, 900 and some odd towns and 1,000 people there. And a lot of the talk was, of course, about energy and conservation and water and all that. And of course, there was a number of the booths from the state and from localities about best facilities.
Yeah.
I was advocating for, and some people were agreeing, can the state, and this is my question to you, can the state put a moratorium on best facilities? Everyone I talked to who knew a whole lot more than me from the state said there are questions we have.
Yes.
So why go for until all the safety questions are asked? Is that possible, or it's just?
Oh, it's 100% possible, but it's absolutely unlikely. And I can tell you that because of the letter I received from the chairman of the PSC. And there's no question in my mind that the PSC, because of the predicament that we find ourselves in from an energy standpoint, they are pushing for battery storage systems, just like they're pushing for large-scale solar in upstate. And so when you have discussions with people from other parts of New York, you go, again, upstate, they're dealing with large scale because they have the land.
They do.
So they're doing large scale solar. Down here, because we're so much more condensed and we're closer to the grid, they see us as prime opportunity for battery energy storage. And so battery energy storage, and the chairman says it directly in the letter that he sent to me, is a part of their equation for the future of New York State. Last year, they had passed, in part of the budget, they actually did this Article 7 language that expanded ORES to, which is the Office of Renewable Energy Siting. It expands ORES, and we talked about this last year when I came before you, I believe, to allow for ORES to be the approving authority for siting for not just renewable energy projects, but battery storage that is connected to renewable energy projects. And so all you need is some solar connected to the batteries, and it's the state that's going to come in, not the local municipality, which is completely wrong. We're a home rule state. My concern is, some of my colleagues in the Senate from New York City have introduced legislation that would expand that to all battery energy storage systems, not just the ones that are connected to renewable energy. So while they should have a moratorium to make sure that all the safety parameters are in place, to make sure that the fire code is in place, to make sure that there's proper training, to make sure there's a whole slew of safety issues that we continue to see every single day, they're going in the opposite direction. And again, that's a concern. And so I know that next week, the one house budgets, the Senate and the Assembly both propose and pass their one house budgets. I'm very concerned that you're going to see that continued expansion of ORES as part of one of those budgets that are proposed. And then that gets negotiated as part of the final budget, which we would be passing, again, expected to be, or at least required to have something by March 31st. So we debated it last year. I debated it last year. And so that's something that I'm keeping a very close eye on, because I don't want to see that continued expansion, because like you just said, they should be going in the opposite direction. Every single town I represent either has passed a moratorium, doesn't have it in their code, or has written it out of the code. Every single one. And New York is doing the complete opposite. And not only are they doing the complete opposite, they're taking the decisions out of your hands, which I completely disagree with. So that's something that we need to be very, I think, aware of, vigilant of, and continue to work together over the coming weeks to see what direction they decide to go in this regard.
The momentum's disturbing. The momentum
Yes.
direction is disturbing.
Yes. So I took up a lot of time. I know that I apologize, but
Thanks, Madam
this
Speaker.
is always, I just think it's so important that, I remember being town supervisor and you hear about things that were approved, passed, or being considered, and you had no idea that it even happened. And so I try to provide that direct line of communication. I will say that I speak with many of your council members very consistently. They're great advocates for this fantastic community. They're great partners for me, as well as your highway superintendent, who does a great job for our local roads here in Somers and actually beyond, because he's also in the Association of Highway Superintendents as well, and he's rising in the ranks there too. So you better be careful. So with
He's
that,
a good man to have.
I appreciate your attention. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank
Well,
you.
everybody.
The 40% increase.
Oh, yeah, well, you're right. I told you. All right. So let's move on here. Next up on the agenda, Anglefly Preserve, Reese Park, environmental review. Eric, Kaya from KG and D.
Give it 1 second until they move out.
I know, poor Eric.
Oh, my God.
I said, Eric, I say,
Yeah.
I know I told you. earlier.
That's a hard act to follow.
I know, we'll be like about 5 minutes and you're here for now an hour.
By now. Oops.
Bye, everybody.
Oops.
Yeah. That's what happens.
Mm.
Don't take offense. It happens a lot.
Or is it us?
I'm taking offense.
Please don't.
Yeah.
Eric, what's changed?
Well,
Wait.
What's
you all look great tonight, but you didn't look as great as last time I was standing up here because it was holiday sweater.
Oh, that's right. Ugly sweater.
I would say they were energetic sweaters.
Right.
Electric, maybe.
Nice way of putting it.
I think you might have won with that elephant sweater.
2 years in a row. I gotta get a new one next year.
Yes.
I have to get a new one.
Anyway, I'm Eric Kyer, KGD Architects. I'm here representing the town of Somers for the Reese Park project. Also here with me tonight is David Smith, your Director of Planning, who's going to follow me and talk a little bit more in detail about the project. But the point of tonight is basically to conclude the environmental review process. He'll talk more about the neg deck and that there's no significant impacts. You received from us the EAF submitted and was reviewed by you. Just a little bit about this project. It's on the screen right here. We're talking tonight about phase 1 of the 11-acre parcel was a land swap between that's co-owned by Westchester County and the town of Somers. Phase 1 work includes constructing a new paved 2-way, 24-foot wide, which is official town road width, that connects the main parking lot to Plumbrook Road to the south, and will provide a second means of egress, which is really critical to the park when special events. The proposed road drops about 50 feet between the parking lot and Plumbrook Road, with an average grade of just over 4%, and at one point it's up to 9%. But it works with the existing contours of the site. What we're doing here is we're demolishing. And in fact, can we get the next slide? Because this shows the overall, but this shows kind of the area, which is the Reese Park expansion portion. If you look at this on the far left, you can see some of the existing buildings in pink, the library and the rec building, as well as the pavilion. Just to the right of that is the existing parking lot. And to the right of that, you can see there's 3 tennis courts. And above those 3 tennis courts are currently 3 additional tennis courts. Those 3 tennis courts are being eliminated to create 4 pickleball courts and 36 parking spaces, as well as that access to the 11-acre expansion portion so that we can put an access road that leads down to Plum Brook. This project includes stormwater management and also provides a space for the future for athletic fields and other recreational purposes. Between the access road and Primrose, it's maintained as wooded. That area is currently part of a sort of historic view corridor, which we're trying to maintain. And so neither the Mount Zion Church property, which is that quadrant which is cut out of the Reese Park expansion, or the historic corridor will be affected by this project. Since we saw you last, we've done all the surveying, done the wetlands mapping, We found out where the 100-foot setback is on the road. And if you can go to the next slide, and we're really trying to confuse you here. Insight decided to do this so that north is up the page, and I decided to do it so the north was to the left side of the page.
Thank you.
But you'll see that from the previous layout there, it had more of a sort of a circular pattern to the roadway. That road has been straightened slightly so that we get out of the 100-foot setback, and that addresses a lot of issues that we could potentially have with DEP and DC, and allows us to pave the entire road all the way from Plum Brook all the way up to the parking lot.
At a time, we have no idea when, but eventually.
Correct.
Correct. So, yes, since the last time we met, we showed that we shifted the road to address the wetland setback. It still has a smooth natural layout and works with the existing contours as mentioned before. We're maintaining space for a future competition football, multi-purpose field, which the way that this is laid out will also limit the need for future retaining walls, which saves a lot of money for the town. And with that, I think, well, let's show the next two slides just really quickly because it kind of zooms in. So you can see in the green box here, those are the 3 tennis courts that are just below the existing parking lot. The red square there, rectangle, is where the 4 pickleball courts will be, and the blue box is where the 36 additional parking spaces will be. And that parking lot is just to the left of the existing playground. So that additional parking will be enjoyed by not only the kids in the playground, but all the pickleball players as well as the tennis players. Go to the final slide. That red line right there that's at the right, that's the 100-foot setback from the stream, their intermittent water course that's just to the right of that. And it shows that the road is outside that 100-foot setback. We're also showing that there is underground drainage that filters into an open stormwater basin that's adjacent to Plum Brook Road. With that, I will turn it over to David Smith.
I keep wondering why I can't see that well.
So good evening. For the record, David Smith, town planner for the town of Somers. So Eric's walked you through what the proposed action is under SEQR. That's the State Environmental Quality Review Act. Just to summarize, your board declared your intent to act as lead agency back in December 12th. You circulated a notice of intent to a number of interested and involved agencies. You received comments back from Westchester County and New York City DEP, and also it was reviewed by your planning board, none of whom objected to your board acting as lead agency. Your lead agency because you're funding, the town board is, or the town is funding this particular application. After you circulated the notice of intent, a site plan application was submitted to the Town of Somers Planning Board. The Planning Board held a duly noticed public hearing on February 12th. And I think it's important to note, particularly Roland has in the past suggested that a public hearing be held as part of actions that are being taken by lead agencies and the determining bodies. And so while your board isn't necessarily holding a public hearing on the proposed action, your planning board did, and they received comments. Those comments have been forwarded. The issue now is that given that you have the record before you, as explained and detailed by Mr. Kyer, you have a environmental assessment form. That's the full environmental assessment form. Part 1, which was prepared by Insight Engineering. And then you have Parts 2 and Parts 3 of the environmental assessment form. And Part 2 walks through a series of 18 different impact items that are evaluated as part of the environmental review. And as part of the documentation prepared by the design team, they've included a number of different reports, including a stormwater management pollution plan, erosion sediment control plan, the documents and the plans that you have been presented to the planning board and for yourself. And so in reviewing all that and then getting some additional comment from the State Historic Preservation Office, just for review for the public, they did have some concerns about the potential for cultural resources that may be found on the site, given the historic nature of the town of Somers and this part of the town of Somers. So the town has engaged a cultural resource consultant. They are working on the proper documentation for SHPO. There is a contingency plan in the event that cultural resources are identified, that there's a protocol that would be followed to take those, catalog them, and then have them preserved and for future review. So with that, you have a Part 3 narrative that we prepared, which is fairly extensive. It all supports the issuance of a negative declaration, which means there's no significant impact, environmental impact, as a result of the proposed action. And that's included as part of the Part 3 narrative. There is also an Exhibit A or an Attachment A, which provides all of the different plans that have been submitted and reviewed by the town. It includes the other related documentation. There have been prior cultural resource studies prepared, which have been reviewed. The management plan for the Anglefly Preserve. There is a wetland validation map that was prepared by Insight Engineering. Also, in addition to the planning board having reviewed this, the Bureau of Fire Prevention provided meeting minutes, and they were acceptable with the proposed action with the extension of the road, because that enhances safety and for the community during large events. So, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, what you have before you is the environmental review documentation. It's suggested at this time that if you feel comfortable, you could certainly issue a negative declaration. The importance of the negative declaration is that the planning board, while they held a public hearing in February, they had to adjourn it because they cannot take any action until the environmental review is concluded. So if your board decides to conclude the environmental review tonight with the negative declaration, then the planning board would open their public hearing, close it, and then they would be in a position to grant a site plan approval for the particular application. So that's where you are tonight as a town with respect to this process. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any of you guys have any questions?
You explained it, as always, you explained it very well.
Ready, we're ready.
Yeah. I think we're good. Dave, I know we've actually told everybody about the process, right? No negative impacts on the that came back. So I think we're pretty good here as a town board.
Okay.
Based on what we've read and the discussions that we've had.
Okay.
So
And I do appreciate the discussions and the updating you've given us as we've gone along the way. It wasn't like it just happened now. So
No,
you've been
yeah.
very good at updating us and educating us.
Yeah,
At least myself.
and I think that's part of the process, is to try and be as transparent as process. We've posted the documents and the plans on the town's website to make sure that that the public has an opportunity to review them. And if there are any comments, we haven't received any comments other than the couple of folks who spoke at the public,
Yeah,
at the planning board meeting.
the planning board,
Right.
correct.
We
And those have been addressed and
Yes, they've been addressed, correct.
All right, that's the next step.
Okay, so number 2 here, Anglefly Preserve, Reese Park, 5-month review. We just had the discussion here. I'll make a motion to adopt the neg deck.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Can we adopt the AEF? No, that's it, right?
Oh, if you've adopted the neg deck, then
That's it.
that's it. You're done.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Guys,
Appreciate it.
appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Eric, thanks for waiting, bud.
Yep.
Okay, next on the agenda, 2025 fireworks agreement discussion. There are no changes to the amount of the fireworks from Garden State Fireworks, and that amount is $13,200. That is the same as last year. The celebration last year for the July 4th celebration, we had close to 3,000 people that attended, which goes hand in hand. I think about the what you just heard before for the access road at Reese Park, but close to 3,000 people last year. Great event. The celebration will take place on July 3rd this year. So that is, I'll make the motion here then to request the supervisor to execute the agreement with Garden State Fireworks in the amount of $13,200.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Mike, that's your birthday, isn't it? The 3rd? It is, right? Yeah. It's your birthday celebration.
Yeah.
Just like last year. Just like last year.
We ordered some fireworks for you.
I got some fireworks. Thank you. All right, number 4 here. Propose to adjust the Somers Police Department salary schedule per memo dated February 25th, 2025, from the Supervisor Scarano, effective March 8th, 2025, as followed. Months 1 through 6 at 90%, the full hourly rate. Months 7 through 12, 95% at the full hourly rate. And then after the first anniversary, the full hourly rate to our Somers Police Department. These changes will only affect future pay rates. Again, part of the reason why this, right, to attract talent here to our town, to join our police department. We have had a couple of people who've resigned in the last year, and by doing this, it allows them to get up to their full pay within a year instead of waiting several years to do that.
5 years.
Instead of waiting 5 years to do that. So I'd like to make the motion to approve the changes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Move.
And I think it should be noted that this is not an arbitrary scale of, 6 months, 12 months. et
Correct.
cetera. This is used in other parts of
Other offices.
town,
in the
other
town.
offices, other departments in town. So it's consistent.
All right. And number 5, request permission to authorize the waiver of the permit fee and certificate of occupancy to repair stairs and railings at the Amawalk Fire District for the Somers Fire District, per memo dated February 19th, 2025, from Thomas J. Atuma, Building Inspector. I'll make the motion to authorize the waiver.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Aye.
All right, number 6 here. We have A, B, C, and D. Authorize supervisor to execute the following. But we do have Steve Robbins in the crowd this evening, in the audience. And I know, Steve, you have 2 of those here, B and C, if you'd just like to touch on them a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. It's been Woodard and Kern's pleasure to serve the town for the last 16 years, supporting the town departments from planning and engineering through to parks, highway, and the building department with various technical needs. The town, through our contract, has the ability to kind of ebb and flow and gain the technical expertise as needed, as town needs arise. We're able to ramp up or ramp down our support of the town and support on projects as needed. So this is a continuation of the services that we've provided previously. The one change is actually a planned reduction in our work due to the town's hiring of a planning board secretary. Some of our support duties that we picked up with the prior planner's retirement are no longer needed and are being provided in-house. So that's a reduction in our planned level of service for those services, but here to support the town as needed. And that includes planning board reviews and ongoing infrastructure and other technical assistance as needed. That's the first of our two. The second of our two proposals to the town is again to provide that specialized technical support to town staff to supplement Steve Wolfel, to supplement Dave Smith in the town's need to continue meeting state requirements for the MS4 permit. This includes mapping of stormwater infrastructure, assessments of stormwater infrastructure, updating some of the town's review mechanisms for stormwater infrastructure, and supplementing the work that Steve and Dave do on a daily basis, and Highway Superintendent Nick DeVito as well. So we work collaboratively with them and provide that technical support as needed to comply with the state requirements.
Steve, this might be a personal question. Is Joe Barbagallo still around and doing stuff?
Still a resident on Warren Street, to the best of my knowledge.
And is he still with?
Joe is our president of consulting, so
Oh,
nationwide.
oh, he outgrew us.
I think he very much appreciates living here in town, and his kids have gone through town here, and
Oh, tell Joe we miss him.
I will for sure.
He was a pleasure to work with,
Yep, just saw him just the other day.
as are you.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions for him on this?
Nope.
Pretty much straightforward.
Pretty straightforward.
The other thing on there, number A, is the on-call consulting services proposal for Hardesty and Hanover to provide continuing professional planning and traffic engineering consulting services for 2025. And D, certificate of municipal site control of DASNY grant 26851 to procure and install an exterior level 2 EV charges at the town of Somers Highway Department, Parks and Recreation Department, and the townhouse.
So there's 3 chargers that will be going in.
Would you like me to?
Is that it?
If you know, yeah.
There are. This is a state grant
Right.
that the town applied for in 2023, and as part of the paperwork in support of that grant application, the state has requested documentation that says that the town owns those 3 properties. And so this is an authorization for the supervisor to sign that form that says that the town owns it.
It doesn't say that's where the chargers are going.
The grant proposal does propose additional charging stations at the Highway Department, Parks and Rec Department, and here at the town.
So it
Yeah.
does.
It will go
So,
here.
yeah, because
That's what the
a
grant-
while back from somebody, where are these chargers going? I wasn't quite sure.
We've met with the town departments and with the supervisor back at the time of that grant application in mid 2023, and looking at the overall needs in the town, that was what was determined.
Okay.
What's the amount of the grant? Do you recall?
It's $100,000.
$100,000 recharging.
No, multiple charges at each
2
location,
at each location.
at least. I think
Yeah, I think it's 2 at each location, so 6 charging stations, I think, somewhere around, right?
it's about that. Yeah.
Which would be important. I mean, we need new charging stations here at that highway. I don't think there's any at highway right now currently.
And that includes the infrastructure getting, in other words, you got to connect NYSEG and get the power into those stations.
Yeah, the cost of the actual charging station head is the lowest cost of the rest of it. It's getting an electrical contractor, doing trenching, connecting to the existing infrastructure in the building, and doing all that support work, which
Got it. Thank you.
Is there any requirements? Is it just for town vehicles, or is there any requirement someone else could come in? Could they pay or?
the intent is to support town vehicles with these.
We do have other charging stations, you guys know. We do have a charging station at Van Tassel, and then we do have
Reese Park.
at Reese Park as well, that are there for the public, which they are. Reese Park has actually been used a lot. I'm not sure so much at the one at Van Tassel, but I have seen it a couple times, people using it, but
And there's one up in Baldwin.
Yeah, but no, these are the town ones.
these are the
Yes,
town-
right. I'm just saying there are other.
Yeah, there's one up in.
There's
Baldwin.
there's also one here,
Multiple.
right by
That's
Dunkin'
right.
Donuts.
That's
I
right.
think there's a charging station there.
There's
Two
more.
up in Baldwin.
There's more than one.
Baldwin.
Bank.
Shopping one, and there was one up in the Carney place, across from Mrs. Green's.
Oh, okay. All right. So they're around.
Okay, and then, so if we don't have any questions, right?
No, we're good.
Go.
All right, I'll make it. So I'm going to put A, B, C, and D all together in one motion. Motion to authorize supervisor to execute the following.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So
Aye.
moved.
Thank you,
Thanks,
John.
Steve.
Thank you.
Next on the list, Historic Elephant Hotel Restoration Grant Project 247346. A, B, and C here, authorized supervisor to execute the New York State Office of Parks and Recreation Historic Preservation, OPR HP Environmental Grant, Fund Grant, not to exceed $281,500 to be used for the Historic Elephant Hotel Restoration Project. Authorize supervisor to agree to the terms and conditions of the State of New York contract for grants contract with OPR HP for the Historic Elephant Hotel Restoration Project. And then Patty here, just authorize the supervisor to execute the contract, project certification, and all documentation related to this grant. Big step, great thing for the Elephant Hotel. $281,500. A lot of work went into this. We've had a lot of people help out with this grant. It was all hands on deck. It's nice to receive this grant. We do have some repairs that need to be done here, especially in our basement. And this grant will help with that. So appreciated for getting this grant here of $281,500. Make the motion then for A, B, and C to authorize the supervisor to execute all three contracts.
Second.
All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
So
Aye.
moved.
And the pursuit of grants is so important to any town, but I think for a town like ours, because to accomplish large things, sometimes you need that influx of capital to do it. And so it's a very important part of the town that is as the pursuit of grants, and as anyone who's followed it knows, the actual filling out of the grant can be so particular that if one thing isn't there, it gets turned down. And that's happened to us sometimes in the past. And we're going to try to, continue to do well and even do better in the future.
Yeah, we've had some success. We've had, some success getting some grants. We've got some congressional funding. We've gotten some WIA funding. We've gotten some stuff for help our courts. Now we have a grant here for the Elephant Hotel. So as to Rich's point, we'll continue pursuing grants. It's a vital need to keep the buildings and all the other stuff operational. The security systems that were put up and around all of the buildings was also a grant money too. So, we'll continue to go after those grants and hopefully continue to keep getting them. Let's go on to number 8. Request approval to accept the change work order from Cobbling Rock Construction for digging at the site of 5 Cottage Place to explore the possibility of a buried oil tank not to exceed $1,500 per memo dated February 26, 2025 from Michael Dunbar, Assistant Building Inspector. There's some work going on there, and we just need to make sure we can dig around and make sure that the buried oil tank there can be removed. So request approval to accept the change work order, $1,500.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So moved. And then number 5, Patty just struck out bids 4, and then 5 Cottage Place underground tank removal discussion. And this would be to authorize Madison Environmental to remove the tank at a cost not to exceed $2105, $2,105. Make the motion to authorize supervisor to execute the contract with Madison Environmental.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So
Aye.
moved.
That'll be done.
All right. On to the next one here. Number 10, consider the recommendations of following the steps outlined in Chapter 77 of the Town Code of the Town of Somers, unsafe buildings for the property located at 1 Oak Drive. That is parcel 28.18-1-16 per memo dated February 27th, 2025 from Robert Russell, Code Enforcement Officer. Discussion here. And what this would happen if we were to follow the Chapter 77 code. This would then, the outcome would be issue the owner of the property a summons and to appear in court. Is that right? No. It's Roland.
Yes,
Chapter 77 of the code, or you just want me to go right straight? just
I
wanna go
think,
right
I
straight.
think the first step is to have an engineer's report completed, and the building inspector would need that authorization in order to incur that expense. And if the engineer determined that the building was unsafe, then you could move for its demolition, and you would place a lien on the property if you spent for whatever funds you spend. Of course, throughout this whole process, you have to give notice to the property owner, and I do think you have to have a public hearing, but at a later date.
So we can either start the process, so what we're going to either do is authorize the building department to start the process with regards to chapter 77.
Okay.
Or Roland, a notice of violation has been issued to this property owner and has gone unanswered. So I believe it would be in the town's best interest to have the building department issue a summons and take this person to court.
Well, you can do that as well, but if the building is truly in an unsafe condition, I think you do two things. You can take him to court, and maybe he'll pay a fine, but you still want the building to be secured. And the only way to further that is to start the process of determining if it's truly unsafe.
So you follow the steps of the, yeah. Okay. Okay. So I'll make the motion to authorize the initial steps for the building department to see if the building is unsafe, and also to issue the summons to the property owner.
Correct.
Is there a monetary aspect to the summons, or is it a court appearance? What's going on?
It'll be a court appearance. If the property owner hasn't responded to the violation, chances are he's not going to respond to the court appearance date. And, that could go on for a long time. That's why I think you have to also take the steps under the unsafe building law
Okay.
to determine if the building is truly unsafe. And that may scare him into compliance.
Okay. So we laid out both of those
Okay.
motions, two separate motions. First one was to allow the building department to take the initial steps to see if the building is unsafe. And then the second motion would be to issue the property owner a summons. I'll make the motion on both those.
Second and
On-
second, right?
Second and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Thanks. Okay, number 11 here. Consider adoption of a resolution in support of New York Assembly Bill A 01270 to amend Public Service Law 44-A and 4040-B, requiring public utilities to notify customers of supply increases exceeding 40%. Just change that.
You're adding.
No, we're taking the word rate out and putting in the word supply. Yes, because
Right.
in the resolution, so
Right,
the
it's a rate increase.
yes. So in the resolution here, in support of the New York State Assembly bill, whereas Assembly Match Slater of the 94th Assembly District has sponsored New York Assembly Bill A 01270, which seeks to amend Public Service Law 44-A and 44-B to require public utilities to notify their customers whenever there is a supply increase of 40% or more. Whereas legislation further mandates that public utilities make customers aware of available bill assistance programs to ensuring such programs are clearly listed on the utilities company's website, thus improving access and resources for customers facing financial challenges. And whereas transparency and clear communication from public utilities are essential to ensuring that customers are well informed about potential financial burdens resulting from removed rate, and add that puts supply in there. Supply increases, allowing them to take appropriate action to manage their utility costs. And whereas the Somers Town Board recognizes the importance of customer protection and supports initiatives that aim to safeguard residents from unexpected financial hardships due to significant, take the word rate out and put supply hikes from utility providers, and now therefore be resolved that the Somers Town Board hereby expresses its fully support and endorsement to Assemblyman Matt Slater's efforts to enhance transparency in the utility industry by advancing this legislation, and be it therefore resolved that the Somers Town Board encourages the New York State Legislature to adopt Assembly Bill A 01270, ensuring that public utilities uphold the responsibility to inform and assist customers in a clear and equitable manner.
I got a question. I mean, this isn't like just a private business. This is a public utility that gets its right through the state to provide electricity and to deliver it. This is about the supply charge, as you said. But now, I don't know how many ESCOs there are, energy service providers that there are. Do they have to keep track of every one of them? And how often would they notify someone? Weekly? Daily? I'm in favor of the general gist of this. I'm just wondering how the thing actually works.
I think this is limited to NYSEG, not the ESCO. So when NYSEG, posts a supply rate on their bill, I just think it's an early just the way I interpret it. It's an early warning communication to say, we've seen something very significant. Just be aware.
So,
but I don't know how they're going to implement this and how this gets done.
Because, if that's so, and maybe you're right, is that two people living next to each other, one person says, hey, I just got the notification, rates go, 40% on the supply rate. Next guy, the next door neighbor says, wait a minute, mine went up 45%, nobody told me. And I don't know how this thing works to make it sure it's smooth and the goal is accomplished.
The first I saw was today.
We can table it. We can
I'm not-
table it if you
I'm-
guys want. We get the questions answered and resolved. And I think we had Matt.
Well, maybe that would be good in case people ask us.
Okay, so we'll table it. We'll table it to next month. So
Okay.
we table it.
Okay.
We're
not against the sentiment.
No, I'm not against the sentiment either.
But
And when it
how
comes,
is this going to
We
work?
could do this maybe next week too.
we can do it next week. So let's table it
Yeah.
to next week.
Okay.
We'll get those answers resolved. We had Matt here for a good 45-minute conversation. So we'll table it.
It
and,
would have been another 45 minutes though.
yeah, so
Probably.
we can, should have just asked him to explain.
I mean, the devil's in the details, and there'd be a lot in this, a lot of details in this one.
So we'll table it,
Okay, good. Thank you.
okay? Go on to Parks and Recreation, the request to approval to purchase a John Deere mower in the state bid contract not to exceed $16,953.09 as provided for the 2025 budget per memo dated February 24th, 2025 from Stephen Rawson, Superintendent of Parks and Recreation. I'll make the motion to request approval to purchase.
Second.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
So
Aye.
moved. Financial authorized 2024 budget transfers and modifications per request from Robert Kehoe, Director of Finance. Make the motion to authorize the 2024 budget transfers.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moved.
There's a lot of them.
Nothing in our highway. Personnel, still a couple vacancies on our boards, Affordable Housing Board, Assessment Board of Reviews, Parks and Recreation Board, a 2-3-year term ending on, wow, it's already passed, but I think we got to, and the Veterans Committee here, a 5-2-year term ending on 5/31/2025. Those are upcoming. If you guys are interested, anybody out there listening, get in contact with my office, and we can set up some time to meet. I also want to acknowledge the resignation of Michael Russo, our part-time police officer for the town of Somers, and that was effective on March. It's effective actually today, March 7th, 2025. Another reason why we adjusted the salary schedules to attract some talent to come here to our police department.
Are we going to act on the other fellow?
No, we'll do it next week.
Next week?
Yeah, we'll do it next week. And then make it more of official here with this. Consider appointing Michael Barnhart, Chairman of the Open Space Committee, to a volunteer title of Anglefly Preserve Conservation Steward, effective immediately. I know we had a thing last week. I just wanted to make it more formal here. I think everybody was kind of in agreement, but I'd like to make a motion to appoint Michael Barnhart.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Aye.
Planning and engineering, there's no additional business. Police, there's no additional business. And then proposed consensus agenda, we'll put that to next week. And then our calendar here, our next meeting is on the 13th, and that is our town board regular meeting at 7 o'clock. May 3rd and May 10th, 1st and May 8th, and all of those meetings are at 7 p.m. right here at Town Hall. We do have some announcements. We did talk about a little bit with Assemblyman Matt Slater was here. That NYSEG customer service pop-up event. Again, this is not a presentation, just this is a one-on-one meeting to go over your bills. Wednesday, March 12th, 1 to 3, and then 5 to 7, Yorktown Town Hall, 363 Underhill Avenue in Yorktown Heights. And then Thursday, March 13th, 1 to 3, 5 to 7, Carmel Town Hall, 60 McAlpin Ave in Mayapack. Town of Somers suit drive for the veterans in need. We're going to be doing a suit drive here now through, it says March 31st. We'll probably extend that date a little bit longer, and that will be from 9 a.m. to 4:30. You guys, anybody out there, we are collecting the following men's and women's attire: suits, blazers, coats, dress shirts, dress pants, ties, belts, tops, bottoms, dress skirts, shoes, and handbags. I think it's so important for our veterans when they're coming back from duty and coming into civilian life to have a quality suit. A lot of them can't afford it. And then we send it off to an organization that distributes it throughout the country. But it's just something that we can help do our small little part for our men and women veterans out there who come back into the workforce.
Super.
And then and that'll be here. We'll have a couple bins. We'll also have, if you hang your suits up, we'll have one of those clothes racks to hang up your suits. So that will be open tomorrow if anybody's out there listening.
Right here in the town?
Right here, yeah, right here in Town Hall. We'll find a spot somewhere for it. And then Somers Senior Programs presents Culinary Experience at the Culinary Institute of America. That's Thursday, April 3rd. Bus departs from Van Tassel at 8:45, $55 a person. Deposits are due by 3/21. Final payments are due by 3/28. And then you will have a delicious 3-course lunch at the renowned student-run restaurant, Cantarina I don't know. You said
De Medici.
De Medici. And then please contact Princess Guerrera at Van Tassel House, 914-232-0807.
That's a great place to eat.
It should be delicious. She's doing some great work over there with getting these senior trips. And then another one here, Somers Senior Programs Casino and Shopping Trip to Foxwood Casino. And then they're going to the Tanger outlets. They're going to the Tanger outlets too, featuring high stakes.
If you have any money left, tell them to go there first.
Yeah, we should have had it the other way, right? And that is April 24th, and the bus will depart from Van Tassel House at 8 a.m. and returns at 7 p.m. It's $40 per person, $25 deposit. Please contact Princess Guerrera, Director of Nutrition at the Van Tassel House. And then hold the date, Town of Somers Arbor Day event. You guys are welcome to attend that event, and that is Friday, April 25th, 10 a.m., and I think it's going to be at
Bailey Park, right?
Branching out new things there.
We're branching out. Patty, fun fact.
Well, on this day in 1899, Bear patented aspirin. In 1836, the Battle of the Alamo ended. In 1981, Walter Cronkite signed off of CBS for the last time.
Wow.
In 1986, the world lost Georgia O'Keeffe, photography artist. In 2016, we lost Nancy Reagan. There is 12 days to opening day. Spring training is in full effect. We're not the best, but we're not the worst with a 6-5 record. But we're still better than Soto and the Mets. So
It's good. Very good.
Oh, nice.
Rich, you have anything to close out tonight?
Oh, well, listen, it's March, so while we say goodbye to the winter sports season and all basketball coaches have a kind of a hole in their afternoons of what to do now, but it's March Madness, and like Patty says, baseball is going to be coming here, so pretty soon the Robins will be tweeting, and we will be happier. And on this day in 1857, all those who are juniors in high school who will take the Regents exam should know this because it's almost always on the test. Or anyone who's been to my little lectures up at Heritage Hills knows that this is the date on which the Supreme Court probably issued its worst decision ever, the infamous Dred Scott decision, which was one of those steps toward the Civil War taken by the Supreme Court. So that's the day in history.
Dana?
Yeah.
Bill, you have anything? As you're flying?
No, nothing in particular, but I will try to bring some warm weather back.
Attaboy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, anything?
No, I'm good.
Anthony?
All good.
Nothing here on my end, so I'll make the motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
So moved.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.